Next on Eyewitness News.
Authorities were watching closely, hoping that containment dome would help put a stop to the leaking oil in the Gulf. We'll have the latest on that effort. Crews are working to clean up the oil already on the water's surface with more controlled burns as they try and stop the spread. Plus, federal officials are looking into the cause of the rig explosion, the root of this massive spill.
From WWL TV, the spirit of Louisiana. This is Louisiana's news leader. Channel 4's Eyewitness News at 5.
New accusations are being thrown in Washington as the oil spill continues to spread. Critics say government watchdogs got a little too cozy with the oil industry, and as a result, safety suffered. As Ed Lavandera reports, this environmental disaster could have possibly been averted.
It's hard to imagine how things could be worse for the Minerals Management Service, or MMS. Its 1,700 employees are supposed to regulate the oil industry, but a growing chorus of critics say the agency is nothing short of a disaster.
But it's very clear that you have a dysfunctional agency. You can't trust MMS. They've shown that they're too cozy with industry.
Too cozy indeed. 2 years ago, an internal government investigation discovered ethical failures by more than a dozen MMS employees. Some were even having sex and using marijuana and cocaine with oil company employees.
It was very clear. They thought that partying, drinking, accepting expensive tickets in hotel rooms somehow made it easier for them to understand the business of how much ore and how much oil and how much natural gas was being taken out.
CNN has reviewed hundreds of pages of documents and government reports dating back almost 10 years. Documents that paint MMS as an agency that, in the words of its critics, rubber stamps the oil industry's actions and is unable to enforce safety regulations. For example, in 2000, MMS issued a safety alert calling for offshore drillers in the U.S. to have an additional backup system called an acoustic switch that could prevent oil blowouts like the one now in the Gulf. They went so far as to call it a, quote, essential component. Just 3 years later, after complaints from the oil industry, MMS determined it wasn't so essential after all, saying it would be too costly and ineffective. Never mind the fact that BP is required to use it on rigs in 2 other countries. Let's load up. Stuart Smith is an environmental attorney who has won dozens of cases against the oil industry and is representing fishermen put out of work because of the Deepwater Horizon disaster. We flew over the spill site with him.
That's a slick. It's all over here. It looks like a river.
Right.
But it's not.
In the years before this disaster, MMS and BP downplayed the possibility of a major oil spill. In an initial exploration plan, BP called a spill, quote, unlikely. So when BP sought permission to drill the Deepwater Horizon site, MMS agreed and went along with it, and gave the company a, quote, categorical exclusion from a more strenuous environmental impact study. Environmentalists say such exemptions for oil companies are common.
Once you dig into it, I mean, they are treated with kid gloves in every respect. They are the least regulated industry from an environmental point of view in the country.
Obviously, they're going to argue just the opposite.
Well, they can't.
We wanted to ask BP about its relationship with MMS and the oversight of the company's wells. In a statement, BP said simply, speculation over the causes or implications of the Deepwater tragedy would be premature, adding that the drilling rig was owned by another company. We also wanted to know what exactly MMS would say, but after 3 days of repeated requests for interviews with officials at the Minerals Management Service, they've refused to talk to us. Ed Lavandera, CNN, New Orleans.
That same agency, MMS, is partnering with the Coast Guard to begin holding public hearings into what caused the oil rig explosion. The 2 agencies will hold hearings in Kenner on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. They're the first public hearings into what caused the rig explosion that led to the massive oil spill. Congressional committees have also announced they plan to hold hearings on the spill.